What's up, everyone? You know what night it is. Wednesday night, off-centered with Dustin, the artist formerly known as the Personal Finance Dad. About 300 of you know him as Retro Game Dad, that one channel he started out of on a whim a couple months ago, and then he just kind of left in the dust. And then a few of you know him as the personal grazing cow, like Andrew Marks. But this is going to be a great episode because Dustin and I are joined by Ken Rodgers, the CEO of MySlabs, and Matt Groening, who actually sounds kind of close to Matt Groening, which is the creator of The Simpsons. But Matt Groening is the COO pretty much of MySlabs as well. So lots to talk about tonight. I hope you're ready, and y'all already know the drill. Welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let's bring on the guest that just got back in his seat. Now he has coffee. Personal grazing cow.
Cheers. How you doing, man?
There. Oh, I'm good. Andrew says hi, by the way. I don't know if you saw that earlier. Andrew says hi.
All right. What's up, Andrew Marks?
Yeah. Let's graze on that coffee.
Actually, well, I was telling you before we came on, my wife got a new juicer and she's made a bunch of these different juices. And I just drank like a mix of all these juices. And now my stomach is killing me. So sorry, babe. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the juice moving forward, but if I have to turn off the camera and mute and run to the bathroom, that's what happened. So I'm just going to put that out there now.
And I'm going to put this out there too. My internet has been very wonky as of late, so I don't know what's going to happen. I might just drop off 5 times, and then Dustin will have to entertain y'all with his juicing stories.
And then if I'm in the bathroom, then it's just MySlabs kind of running through the chat.
Yeah, it's just their show. So good luck to Ken and Matt. Hopefully you guys are entertaining. Hopefully you guys are clownish. You know, wouldn't want it to be too serious. But anyway, and then usually it's the bathroom break for me. It's when will I have to use the restroom? This time, I think it's Dustin. So if we want to put a timer on how long until Dustin will have to turn off his camera and mic, run to the restroom and get these juices out of his body out of whatever hole it's going to come out of, feel free to put that in the chat as well.
I feel bad that we're pulling ratings away from the NBA playoffs. I just saw Boston was down by like 15 and now they're down by 2 to the Nets. So I'm sure everybody's here and not watching that.
I mean, y'all could just watch the replay tomorrow of the game. So you're catching us live tonight. Anyway, man, you were in Puerto Rico doing some money laundering. I don't know really why anyone else would go there. So how did that go? Are you fully laundered of all your cash?
Well, it's U.S. territory, so I don't know if that's really, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's not like taking it offshore. It's not exactly an offshore account. I guess it's offshore, but it's still a U.S. territory. So yeah, no, it was a great vacation. Me and my wife dropped the kids off in Florida with family, and then we went there for 4 days, and it was nice. Just R&R trip, relaxation. Didn't bring my laptop, so I didn't make videos or anything. I just kind of did my thing in PR. It was really nice.
I thought you just use your iPhone.
Yeah. We have a second vault as well in PR that we're working on.
We're expanding very rapidly. So we have one in the middle of Nebraska in like a farmland, and then now we're going to Puerto Rico.
Do you want to unveil the name?
Check this out, guys. And this is going to be a question we were going to have for Matt and Ken as well, because everyone is getting into vaults, but our vault, we're going to name it right now because it's so good. Revault, right? Coolest name out there. Horrible service, horrible customer service. I'm just going to say it right now. Overpriced. You're not going to get anything from it except being able to say you have your cards with Revault.
Well, no, I mean, don't undersell. The vault in Puerto Rico will be an exotic tropical vault. So there will be some added benefits.
Well, it's like the other vault had a pasture and a beautiful field of wheat to look at as the sun sets every night. And then this vault is set near a beach, so the cards will be able to enjoy a tropical paradise as rust fills all the little holes from all the ocean air.
Chris C down here actually makes a pretty good point. Horrible service, just like PSA. I mean, technically a lot of the card companies have set a low bar for service over the last couple of years. Just saying.
It makes us look good. The bar is set low. So that's the good thing about life is that if you go through life with, hey, the bar is set really low, don't expect much from me, then I might actually pleasantly surprise.
Absolutely. Low expectations. That's where we're going with this. Absolutely.
Well, Loco card collector, we will bring him on if he hasn't already fled, because it's been about 6 minutes of us rambling about nothing. But anything else before we bring on our guest, Dustin?
I think we need to try to work a deal maybe to kind of co-op with MySlabs with the vaults that we've got. That could be some sort of, I hadn't really thought of that, but I just thought of that right now and they can actually hear. So let's go ahead and just present that to them as they come on.
Ken, Matt, what is going on, guys?
What's going on, fellas?
Welcome.
Thanks for not hanging up in the intro.
Man, you guys had me laughing, man. I'm glad I wasn't. I almost fell off my chair. I'm glad I wasn't on screen.
Well, that was a pretty dry delivery for you to say that. So something tells me you wouldn't have fallen off your chair. But let's just start right there. If you want to acquire our vault, because I know MySlabs doesn't yet have a vault, unless that's in the works. And now apparently vaults are like the PMG of this year, where that's the new hot thing. Everyone's going with the vault.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, PMG. Well, now everyone's getting a vault. Let's just start there before we even talk about who you guys are and what MySlabs is to anyone that's not familiar. But any idea of a vault with you guys?
Now, does your vault have a door? I mean, is this an actual vault we're talking about?
How dare you?
It's made of wood. It's a wood. It's a nice wood door. It creaks a little bit, but it has a lot of charm. So our vault, not really high in security, but very high in charm factor.
Yeah, so like very eco-friendly out there in the
one of the sea caves you found in Puerto Rico, basically along the shoreline.
Yep. Yeah. Don't worry. Just spray and pray. Just send it, and we'll take care of the rest.
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Just think on it. Don't answer us now. Think on it.
Yeah. It's interesting. We just the whole idea of joining the vault wars, that we like to call it internally lately, because especially after, the Mint Collective, I noticed, there that Beckett obviously had that, the big banner where they had the, they announced their vault, and that's it.
Now, how anticlimactic is that?
No, Rick said he was going to have a seizure if I didn't turn off the fan in the background, so I just jumped up to turn it off. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay,
Ken.
so false alarm.
It's all good, man. So yeah, and then like a week or two later, I think PSA or Collectors Universe, or they announced that they were going to have a vault, and so it's just like it just seems to be I don't know, it's we call it the vault wars, I think for MySlabs, I think part of the reason that obviously the whole peer-to-peer model works is because we do try to run lean and just keep the overhead low. So obviously you start introducing a vault, obviously you need folks to intake and obviously ship and just manage the human resources to manage a vault, let alone obviously whatever real estate and security and everything else that comes along with managing a vault, insurance, of course. So I just think that for us, right now it's just probably not something that's in the cards, but it's who knows down the road longer term, but definitely no plans for MySlabs to join the vault wars here in the short term.
Do you guys see it as a threat to business? Meaning that because obviously these companies are trying to control inventory, they want to keep the inventory with them. That's kind of the idea of that they're all shooting for. Do you guys see that as something that could affect you guys, or is it, could you, I don't know, co-op with them in some way to where you can kind of, list on MySlabs, but it's in your eBay vault or whatever, is there a way to kind of work with them if it comes to, if it starts to hurt business, I guess?
Well,
it's an interesting point, because, I've actually thought about it in those exact terms. I think, first of all, I think that, there's definitely, folks in the hobby that just don't necessarily want to have their stuff in a vault. I mean, they want to take it to shows, trade nights are huge in the hobby, and call me old fashioned, but I like to have my cards up on the bookcase and look at them, every day and enjoy them. So there's definitely, no matter how many vaults are out there, I mean, I definitely think there's an element of people that they're just, not everybody's going to have stuff in vaults, but also to your other point, one of the big, especially over the next several months, one of the key things on our roadmap is actually building out a very robust eBay-esque API where either just large dealers or super users, or even potentially companies that have inventory in vaults, as a value add to their customers, to build out an API where you can press a button and, assuming you're an approved seller, list on MySlabs. So we're actually in the process of building that. We definitely, again, it's, right now the folks that we're working with and we're going to be testing with are more, dealers and super users, but, we've already kind of, thinking further down the road, the idea of, integrating with, inventory, obviously collection management, inventory, aggregators. There's a lot of those apps, that are popping up, a lot of startups that we've spoken to, we've been approached by, but even to take it a step beyond that, obviously these vault operations and grading companies that, obviously you're going to have a massive amount of inventory that, we could potentially, co-op with, to use your word, or just collaborate with. So for sure.
Awesome.
We have been approached already by a couple of companies that are looking to do something with us as well, as far as new vaults. They'll be reputable out of the gate. But a lot of people listing on MySlabs are listing from their vaults and just having them shipped anyway. So it's not completely alien to think we could do something in the future. As far as opening our own vault, though, no real interest there. Managing other people's cards is just a nightmare, and the liability involved in it is, tremendous.
Awesome. Yeah. And guys, my internet, it's coming through a bit choppy on my end. So I don't know if it's clear for y'all, but as long as it's good for y'all, it's good for me. I'm just piecing together everyone's thoughts and think I got the gist of it. There was one comment here, someone that was not pleased with his experience with MySlabs because he didn't get approved. And so I would ask, for anyone that doesn't get approved through MySlabs, what would they do? Because here's his comment: I would have loved to have used MySlabs, but instead your people turned down my account despite a perfect eBay rating and having my own LLC. So obviously he's not happy, but if that does happen to someone, what would you recommend? And then also,
and to be fair, this could also be an employee of a competitor. Just saying.
Or if you fired a guy, that like looks like that's the way he articulates. Hey, you never know. You never know, right? At the same time, you have a very unique model where it is vetted, which is, it's unique versus just put your name and account information on here and then you're good to go. And that gets eBay and some of these other platforms in a lot of trouble because it opens it up for scams and for people to take advantage. So can you just go over your unique model? And I also think to myself, does MySlabs benefit from the presence of eBay, knowing that you're getting the cream of the crop from this huge platform?
Well, first and foremost, if you apply to sell, there is a small application in which we ask for a little background information, mainly your sales history from either eBay or online forums, something that we can verify that you haven't been in trouble in the past, if we don't already have you in the database or we don't know of you. That's going to sound kind of funky, but everybody that works at MySlabs has been in the industry for years. We have roots, basically across the globe. We know most of the bad actors and can turn down immediately. The gentleman that just posted, he probably went through the application process. He was asked for screenshots of his eBay totals. Now there's a minimum threshold where we say if you don't have 50 positives within like the last year, we might ask you for some other information. So if somebody's been inactive for a couple of years and they send us their eBay feedback and it shows 0 transactions in the last year and they can't forward any references, they're going to have to be turned down, out of the gate. And there's things you can do to get that pushed through. Have somebody reputable that's already an established MySlabs member contact us. I'm just seeing these other comments pop up now. Or create a history of, buying on the actual website, to let us know that you're going to be decent to deal with. People ask why we do this all the time. It's to keep the platform safe. We have virtually no instances of fraud, and the people we have in place to handle the fraud can handle it pretty efficiently. We get just about everything shut down, to make sure our buyers and sellers are getting the items they're supposed to.
Yeah. I just, before we move on past that, because it's definitely, I've gotten those questions in person at shows, and I mean, listen, obviously we never like to turn people down. It's certainly, it's not necessarily a perfect system. I mean, we do the best we can with the information that, that we have available. And that being said, when we do make the decision, to not necessarily approve folks out of the gate, the door is always open for people to, I mean, it's certainly not a requirement, but the door is always open for them to establish a history, as a buyer on the platform. Obviously, if they know any other MySlabs members that could potentially vouch for them, or well-known people in the card community that can vouch for them. I mean, we really do try to, make every effort to, just leave the door open for folks to, kind of establish themselves and reapply at any time. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that maybe they didn't get approved out of the gate, but then, they kind of embraced, just what the community was all about and what we were trying to do. And, took some time and established themselves and reapplied 3 months, 6 months, sometimes more, later, and then get approved. I mean, it happens all the time. We apologize to that gentleman, but it's obviously it's, we do it for the good of the whole, for the entire community. I mean, we do it for everyone. So it's, we do the best we can.
Select and collect at 916 right there. MySlabs auctions would be a game changer. Do you guys have interest in auctions? And then I guess the follow-up question is going to be the obvious. Shill bidding is kind of the hot topic around just auctions in general, in the hobby. I saw an interview with Rick Probstein where, he's talking about it, and basically he kind of summed it up as like, look, you have a lot of investors, collectors, whatever, that are coming in and bidding up to like that 70, 80% of comps, to protect asset prices, basically to protect that pricing. That you'll see people that, that are essentially protecting, their own investments or, or whatever. And so that's where, and I guess they have the intention of buying it, but that's where you see it kind of get bid up to where it's not sold, I guess, for 20% or 30%, what, a recent comp is. Now, that was just one interview that I saw recently, but do you guys have interest in auctions? And then I guess there's the whole shill bidding piece. Have you thought about any of that stuff?
Yeah, I actually saw the interview that you mentioned. And I mean, listen, I mean, that type of thing, as far as folks, protecting certain sectors of the market. I mean, that happens in many different markets.
And to be clear, Probstein was saying he's not doing that, and his people are not doing that. Those are people, outside people that are trying to protect their card values or whatever. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. That's not what Rick was saying.
I mean, listen, I mean, obviously, shill bidding in its true form, obviously just trying to get people to, pay more, so to speak, like, with no intention of actually buying the item. I mean, obviously, we don't condone that. But I mean, it's, as far as like, people protecting their investment. I mean, if somebody bids, 86 Fleer, Jordan, rookie or whatever market that they're interested in, up, they put in a bid at 70% of comps, right when the auction launches, like, as long as that individual, pays for that card, if it actually ends up selling for that 70% number. I mean, the problem, obviously, I think I would have a real problem with it if people are doing that. And then if the rest of the market doesn't respond, as planned and actually, continue to bid the item up, and then they're stuck having to buy it, and then they don't buy it. Obviously, I have a huge problem with that. But if, people are protecting their market, and I mean, even in financial markets, like, people, stock drops or whatever it is, and bad news will hit, people, people will obviously cost average down and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's lots of different ways that people obviously protect their investments. But to the auction point, yeah, I mean, as far as it being something that we're interested in, absolutely. Obviously, auctions are certainly an avenue that collectors take to raise liquidity when they're looking to maybe move out of certain things and raise money to buy other stuff. So it's a huge part of the hobby that we're not currently involved in. And obviously, it's I'm sure every one of our members utilize auctions in one place or another. So definitely something that's on the roadmap. Probably I would say 6 to 12 months out. But exactly how we're going to do it, I would say we've chatted about it internally, probably leaning toward doing it like eBay style, as opposed to like event style auctions out of the gate. Like a PWCC or a Golden, and obviously folks like that are doing it real well. I'd rather just kind of start a little bit slower, dip our toe in the water. Maybe let folks do like 7-day, 10-day auctions and user generated that way, and see how that goes and kind of build it up from there. But definitely something that we're interested in.
And to be clear, the one thing we have that the other auction sites and platforms don't, if you don't pay for your item on MySlabs, you're gone. So, these guys that would attempt to bid up, they're only going to do it once. There's no solution to shill bidding. There's no solution to a lot of other things. There's no perfect solution, I should say. No answer. So if anybody tries to come on the platform and do that, the first time they no pay, they'd be gone. So it's less likely to happen on our site. We have far less items go unpaid for in the format we have now. So, I mean, there's no perfect solution, but we're definitely interested in doing something once we bring our membership up a little higher.
Okay, so here's the question on everyone's mind. Here's the elephant in the room. We know MySlabs, you operate off of a thin profit margin because your fees are a lot lower. Is that why you cut our sponsorship? We had a really good thing going. What the hell happened?
And also on the second part of that question is, please break down in detail how Brad screwed this up.
Just so that when I sign with someone else, I'll make sure not to make the same mistake.
Yeah, no, we definitely deserve that one for sure. Yeah, guys, I mean, listen, it's obviously we enjoy the content you guys put out, and it's definitely a temporary pause, man. Like we actually just engaged with a marketing firm. I mean, we don't have an in-house marketing team. Obviously, we have, I have a marketing background. I've been kind of spearheading a lot of the marketing up to this point, but we actually engaged with a marketing firm for the first time. And, we're actually committed to a decent spend over the next few months for us, for sure. So we just want, just kind of the team here internally just kind of felt like, we should just put like a temporary pause on some of the things that we've been doing, just to kind of like, kind of let's A/B it, with what these guys are able to do, and let's see if we can get some metrics the other way. But we'll be back, man. If you guys will have us back, like obviously we kind of dumped you, so I don't know,
The rates just went up.
Yeah,
yeah, rate went up, right?
My wife just walked in for an update. Yeah, Ken said it's just a temporary pause. All right, we'll get the mortgage paid. I promise. Temporary.
Hold on, my imaginary girlfriend's here.
I think we can buy a couple months.
Just temporary pause. I'll take you out to catch next week. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Those are IOUs. Those are as good as money.
I'll put a call into Hinge for you guys. I know you guys have been trying to get them on board for quite a while. So like I'll get on the horn with them, and I'll try to do my best to fill the void for you guys.
Brad's a platinum user. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, based on how much I've invested in Hinge on their premium options, they should absolutely be able to afford a sponsorship for us. That's a good ROI. Great ROI here in LA, FYI.
All right, guys, we'll shift over to any kind of big announcements or anything that you want, any new features that you guys want to announce, or, anything that I guess you're rolling out over the next few weeks that maybe you wanted to talk about as far as features or just milestones on the site or anything like that.
You want me to jump on that, Matt, or you want to take that one?
Sure, go ahead. I'm reading the comments right now.
Gotcha. So
we got some funny people, though. I got to say, the people that tune into our show, they got a good sense of humor. That's a trophy that we would gladly.
Except for that guy that told us we suck.
But he did say you're a joke, which I mean,
Yeah,
the word
right.
joke is funny in some context. So
yeah. Yeah, actually, a couple things, that we've been trying to get through the engineering on and launch, and obviously, engineering is always a challenge, in any business, and really, kind of getting from testing into production is always a process. But first and foremost, we actually are going to be launching a compartmentalized high-end section on the site. So basically, the current threshold for PayPal transactions is $60K. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a separate section. It's going to be called the MySlabs Showcase. It's actually going to be right where the digital /NFT is currently. So it's
you guys are selling NFTs?
We actually have had, in the springtime, we launched, obviously Topps, Panini have digital products. So it's obviously like a digital card, but not actually on the blockchain. And then obviously you have your, NBA Top Shot, and, Topps actually had some NFT products where they're, kind of NFTs proper, where they're transacted via the blockchain. Basically, we kind of did a beta, with that. Obviously in the springtime, it was getting a lot of headlines. A lot of companies were pushing it. Topps was getting into it. So, it was something we were hearing a lot about. We wanted to offer it, obviously as an option to folks. But actually, believe it or not, PayPal's made some changes to some of their return policies and some of their digital product policies. So we haven't made an official announcement yet, but I guess we're making an official announcement now. We're probably going to be phasing out the digital NFT category. But yeah, so we're actually going to be launching a high-end showcase. So basically, it's going to be its own section. And the big difference between that and, the current feed of slabbed items is that there's going to be an escrow process in the middle of that. So obviously, I think for the high-end market, when folks are, spending six figures on a card, I think there's more comfort doing that, through a lot of the big auction houses, or at least in an environment where, there's a third party in the middle of that transaction, right? So somebody's holding the money, obviously somebody's verifying that the item is what it's supposed to be. So basically we want to offer that to the MySlabs community, that, obviously, if you buy, $100,000 card, $500,000 card, that, you're sending that, you're not sending it necessarily to a stranger. I mean, obviously, we do a lot of vetting and so on and so forth, but, when you're talking, at those levels and those dollar amounts, I think having that extra layer of comfort with the true escrow process, in the middle, I think is going to enable us to do a lot more of that type of business. I mean, we certainly sell high-end cards, but, I definitely think that, we could be doing a lot more of it. And I think having an escrow process in between is going to enable us to do that. And, we're not going to be doing it. We're actually going to be partnering with Ship My Cards. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Ship My Cards. They
heard a T. I heard SHIT the first time you said it.
Okay.
and usually pants is in the line, not cards.
Yeah,
Ship My Cards.
I had sold a card to Australia, and I remember thinking, I messaged the guy like, "Hey, sorry, I don't ship to Australia," and he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Ship My Cards." So,
Right. Mm-hmm. So they Ship My Cards actually, they have a huge following with international buyers and sellers. They do, they have an Oregon shipping address, which is, offers certain advantages. They do have a storage options, so you can vault items with them. Obviously they can, they fulfill, that I know they personally bring cards to the PWCC vault, to the Golden Vault, like every week, like they move a huge volume of cards through their operation. And, Matt knows the owner, well, and obviously trusts him, to the utmost, so, we're going to be partnering with them on the logistical fulfillment side of it. Obviously we're going to be holding the money, and, we'll verify the card through them. And, so that's a big one. And then obviously the other one is, we're going to be launching credit card and debit card payments through Stripe. So we're going to have an alternative to PayPal for folks that don't like PayPal or don't have PayPal accounts.
Hey guys, real quickly on the high-end showcase, we're offering a model that's going to be, it isn't going to be comparable to the auction houses. It's an alternative. The seller fees are going to be a true 0%, so there's no payment processing fees. And the key here is the speed at which the process is going to happen. Typically, auction houses, as a seller, you get paid out 3 to 4 weeks. As a buyer, you might receive your item in 4 weeks, depending upon how important you are. With this process, realistically, you can get paid out or if you're the buyer, get your item inside of 4 to 5 business days. It's all dependent upon how fast that seller can get us or get Ship My Cards, the product, into the MySlabs escrow account. The other key point here is there's no way possible a buyer or a seller could lose their money through a scam, right? Because funds aren't released to the seller until we have the card in our account. The buyer doesn't get the card until the payment's verified. So nothing can change hands until it's supposed to, but it's also done at an extremely, extremely fast rate. So as a seller, you could have that $200,000 payment inside of 48 hours if you can get the card shipped to Ship My Cards in that time frame.
Interesting. Okay. This is a good question. Charles has asked a couple of times. What is the refund policy for MySlabs? How does that work?
Well, it's changed a little bit because we've obviously opened the raw division now. Slabs, there are no refunds unless the item is blatantly not what what you bought, or if the item was damaged in the mail beyond like a simple, kind of corner ding on a slab. You're buying slabbed cards for the most part. There should be no returns on slabs. It says right there on the slab what it is. It says the grade. For all intents and purposes, there's no returns on slabs outside of not getting what you ordered or damage. Raw card division is a little bit different. We have our guidelines set up a little bit differently than every other platform. We couldn't say that there's no returns for raw cards on site because condition is just too subjective from person to person, and people miss things. So there are limited returns on raw. And if you start to abuse the policy as far as returning raw cards, we just shut your ability to buy raw off. We're not going to have any scenario like eBay or some of the other platforms have where it just becomes a free for all. It isn't even possible to list a raw card in mint condition on MySlabs. So the most you should be expecting is what they call pack fresh, near mint. Very limited returns. We tend to protect our sellers pretty well. And that's not to say we don't protect the buyers, but we do not have the return issues we have on other websites. We make sure our buyers get everything they're supposed to, everything they're entitled to, but we don't have those mass returns from other websites.
Where are you guys as far as membership goes? I know you're at 45,000 users, I believe, or was it buyers or users?
Accounts.
Yeah. How is it? I guess how's it going? Are you is it escalating like you would want it to?
Yes, we're about to hit 50,000 accounts probably over the next week or so. And again, we expect to kind of put a charge into that with the new marketing because we're going to be hitting areas I didn't even know existed. So some kind of interesting stuff. So we're hoping to, have 80 to 90,000 members minimum by the end of the year. So it's growing pretty rapidly.
Yeah. When I started in March of 21, we had about 15,000 users, give or take. So in a little over a year, we've more than tripled that. And to be honest with you, like we've been adding 1,000 members a month, like clockwork for the most part. Actually more than that.
3,000.
3,000. Yeah. Sorry about that. 3,000 a month, like clockwork. But that's great. But like I said, I think we're making an investment, in some different types of marketing to hopefully accelerate that. But it's, it's never enough, right? Like it's, so I mean, you see the kind of business that like an eBay does, and like how many users are on like an eBay and how much volume that they do. And it just kind of gives you a sense of what the total addressable market really is, So, we think we have a lot of room to grow.
So the bottom line is, if we ever want to introduce auctions as well, we need to get the eyes up for our sellers. We don't, if we were to release auctions and all the sellers were going to take a bath, we'd be dead in the water out of the gate. So we want to get the head count up and then pursue, other options.
Yeah, I don't know when my internet's going to crash because this is very unstable for me, but I got to mention a couple things. There's a great question from Michael Stone about an app, so I'd like for you to address that in a second. And there was another comment about how do you make money if you charge sellers a low fee? And I mean, when you don't have the returns or the hassle, you don't need as much customer service. When you don't have all the overhead and all that stuff, you can make money just off of a lot of small transactions. So maybe you could talk a bit more about that. But the other thing I will say about MySlabs that I liked from the beginning was that I know a lot of companies are doing the vault model and it works for them and there are pros to it. But one of the biggest cons is that if I don't have the card in hand, then it is locked away somewhere else. And CompC, the way that they partner with eBay is good because now you have more eyeballs on the card. And about a third of my sales on CompC are actually bought on eBay through CompC's account. But with MySlabs, I can list on MySlabs and eBay and then also hold on if I want to sell locally or another method. So to me, it's kind of like, it's hard to draw away business from eBay. I have to at least have that as an option. And yet what happens is when I put it on MySlabs, a higher percentage of cards are being sold on MySlabs of mine as time goes on, as more people become familiar with it and they're getting approved into the system. But I would also imagine, based on your growth, you're having to decline a good amount of applicants in order to keep the integrity high, because without the integrity, MySlabs loses a lot of its specialty, especially when you're trying to save so much on fees and save people money as well. It's like, if you don't have the integrity, then what's really the thing that helps MySlabs stand out? So you want to just start there on the app. I don't know when my internet's going to crash, so I just wanted to get that out of my system.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously, again, definitely, the high standard that we hold folks to, maybe on some level does limit, our user count, to some degree, or puts a little bit of a throttle on it, especially on the seller side. But, to your point, like, obviously, if we remove that, the whole system collapses, right? And I think one of the reasons, to kind of circle back on the question that the user, kind of just posted, we're, obviously we're able to, make money and obviously be in business, charging, such a low fee, really just, by running very lean. It's a peer-to-peer model, so we keep the overhead low. Obviously, our team works remote. We try to be, mindful about, human resources and, really just, structuring our business on what the business needs, as opposed to, just kind of, maybe doing what everyone else does or what everyone says that we should be doing. We just try to focus on, I mean, again, just what we need and keeping things lean, and, you know, we're able to kind of, you know, make a go of it that way, you know, and obviously I feel like doing it that way is, you know, better serves, or at least, you know, serves the hobby in the best way that we can, because obviously the members benefit.
Well, if you want to cut costs down from a business perspective, put people in the correct positions, right? Everybody, again, not to beat a dead horse, but everybody employed by MySlabs has been in the collectibles industry and, you know, comics or sports cards virtually their entire life. So having people in place that know how to do their jobs is, you know, you can run lean. As far as the app goes, that presents like $1 million problem, right? We do run lean. We make money by volume selling. You know, I think we just sold our 125,000 item last week. Sorry for the speech impediment there. But the apps are extremely expensive. You know, we have a few members ask us regularly, you know, you guys should get an app. Ultimately, the mobile version is what we'd want the app to look like anyway. But if we're going to do an app and do it correctly, it's probably going to have to be down the road a little bit. A good app will probably cost you $1 million, somewhere in there. That presents $1 million problem to our members, right? Because we do run so lean. So that's probably going to be down the road when we've, you know, as Ken like to say, build up the war chest a little bit more, so it doesn't cost everybody.
And remember, first priority is getting our sponsorship back. So sorry for everyone that wants an app. We need to get paid a couple $100 minimum per live stream ongoing. Because I got to afford better Wi-Fi. I got to afford, like, you know, more than the wire coat router that Brendan refers to. So, I mean, guys, you're killing me here. Help me help you.
Brad still got a rear projection TV in there. You know,
I don't know. He's got that High Life poster right behind him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, you know, building, and we get asked the app question, like literally, like I run the Twitter account personally. You know, we have another gentleman that runs the Instagram account, but I mean, I literally get asked that question like once a week on Twitter in like a public forum. So it's a very common ask. And I mean, listen, you know, in a perfect world, you know, we'd love to have an app. You know, I think having like that MySlabs icon on the desktop, having that icon in the, you know, in the app store and all of that, I think would be, you know, maybe help with participation and help with like awareness, you know, to maybe have that. You know, people love apps, right? Like, but at the end of the day, you know, just from a user experience or the user interface perspective, like, you know, if you guys, you know, the MySlabs, you know, the mobile version of our site, it's you know, it's mobile responsive, you know, like the UI is pretty mobile friendly, you know, so like, you know, to be honest, like aside from just like saying we have an app and having maybe that icon like on the desktop, you know, the MySlabs logo, like I don't really know how much of like a value add, you know, that there would be in terms of like user experience if we actually had an app at this point. I mean, it's not to say that it won't happen, but
I will say, using my phone, if you just go to myslabs.com on your phone, as long as you have a decent sized screen, it's pretty simple. Like, and the listing process is like 2 steps: front, back, enter, like the card itself, slab or wax. I mean, and the price, and it's literally a 30-second list. And that's one thing I do like, because I hate the process of listing a card and it being 800 boxes to go through. So I will say, as long as your phone is decent size, it's quite good. And that's where I could see the fact that even though it'd be nice to have an app, is that the top priority versus the other stuff you're working on, getting our sponsorship back, etc.? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like getting the Hinge profile going, right? Like front, back, like a couple of drop downs, and Bob's your uncle. Like you got your profile up.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you put more effort on the front picture, not on the last picture, because the priority goes to the front picture, because that's what they see first. That's what makes them slow down, read your bio, and then, you know, decide to match or not. So, you know, priorities. We all have a list of priorities. This was a really good question. I know, Dustin, you had something else. I just wanted to see if there was a quick answer to this.
Yeah, you go with this. I'll go with the next one.
crypto payments, is that something you guys have thought about, may get closer to, implement now?
I've thought about it. Obviously, there's a lot of, it's interesting. Like if you follow the crypto market at all, I think, the card market in a lot of ways has kind of followed. I think all speculative assets, probably over the last year and a half, they've kind of like, if you follow those markets, a lot of the, the major trends, kind of seem to be somewhat in sync, so, the idea that there is, a lot of, kind of folks that have done real well in crypto, and, the idea of maybe taking crypto payments on our platform to maybe, facilitate some of those, funds coming our way. Like it's definitely something I've thought about. I know there are payment processors that do take payments in crypto. It's tricky though, because the problem with crypto is that, the transaction costs are like so high, right? Like, so for like a MySlabs model, like, where our, fees are, so low. And just with some of the transaction costs, like in crypto, like I really think that, could really throw a lot of those metrics like way off. Like, I don't know if the community is even ready for that, but it's something I've thought about. Was like BitPay, right? Like that's like a payment processor where you can make payments in crypto. I think PWCC actually maybe offers crypto payments through BitPay, but yeah, like I said, something we've thought about, but it's just my only kind of hesitation is just because of the high transaction costs and how that would kind of interplay with our low fees.
Oh, there would have to be more of a demand for it too. We've been up and running for a little over 3 years. I've probably been asked 5 times if we could do something with crypto payments. And that's not to say, a lot of the users wouldn't appreciate it, but it's just not something that's really being demanded right now.
And the card people are not necessarily NFT people now. I don't think you're having too many people saying like, "Hey, I'll trade you a Bored Ape for a mantle." Or it's not happening yet anyway.
One of the guys that works for us he was one of the first ones in on the Bored Apes, and he wanted me to split one when they were like $16,000, and I'm like the worst with technology ever, so I said no. Like I didn't have time for it.
I think that was actually CryptoPunks, but yeah.
Honestly, though, those two,
maybe
there's like a few projects that have done amazingly, and then most have not done that amazingly well. So it's like
it was the punks, and Dave and Kenner, did the Bored Apes, I believe, after that. So there are a few guys. It's just not that huge demand, at least not right now.
Yeah, I'm going to shift this over to more. Brad, I'm cutting you off because you're going to ask a dumb question. We're going to move.
I was just going to mention our sponsorship again. It would have benefited you too, Dustin.
It's tired. All right, so we're going to go over to something a little bit more fun. Whatever. Move off the serious stuff. What is the player that you collect the most? If you have or invest in the most or whatever, do you have one player's cards that you have more than others? I guess.
Really. Well, Matt's probably sick of hearing me tell this story, but because we do a lot of these tag team, but
plus the Lakers are terrible.
Yeah. So I'm someone that definitely I'm more of a collector. Like I definitely over the years, like I've kind of found that like if I don't have an emotional connection, to some of the stuff, like I don't really. It just doesn't stick with me after I buy it, and it's not to say that other folks aren't more investment minded, and certainly, obviously, I don't want to feel like I'm throwing money away, so to speak, just for the sake of collecting. But I grew up in the '80s, huge fan of the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird rivalry. Really that rivalry in the '80s like really made me a basketball fan, and just the whole fast break, style, the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, like I just. As a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid at the time, was just captivated. And, to this day, like, I as far as what I have the most of, probably Magic Johnson. And then, like, I always like to say, like, if you collect Batman, you have to kind of collect the Joker a little bit too. So I have some Larry Bird cards as well. Like, obviously, maybe 30 years ago, I would never have, bought Larry Bird cards, but over the years I've obviously come to really appreciate just the rivalry and the friendship between the two of them. So, you know, so that's what I PC the most. I mean, I have other stuff too, but that's what's nearest and dearest to me. There you go.
There it is. An NFT of that would sell for $1 million.
No.
To me, it was horrifying and hilarious.
Just because I know everybody loves Boston teams too, the Celtics just won, so we can all rest a little easier tonight.
That's wild. That is wild too, because I saw at halftime the Nets were up by 10 or 12 or something. They were in control, and then the Celtics.
I don't know if you guys saw it. You probably did. My face kept lighting up because I was checking my phone very low key, like holding it down. And checking. I'm from Boston, so I originally hated everybody for having to miss the Celtics game here, but I think since we were down by so much and I came on and we won, I love everybody. But
there you go.
What's a Boston guy's take on Tom Brady now? Is it like appreciation, a bit of soreness, a bit of bitterness? Like, I mean, I would be like mixed, but 80% we had a good run. You take him during his heyday, during his like golden years.
Well, I mean, obviously, New England sports fans are the most rational people in the world. So I have no bitterness towards Tom Brady. We forced him out of there. I mean, I appreciate his greatness. I think he's a bit of a prima donna, so to speak. But it's as far as like having any animosity toward him, I was cheering for him when, they won the Super Bowl. I love him. I love Gronk. There's no ill will from me anyway. I know a lot of people up here are upset with him, but he got forced out. It wasn't like, that he had a choice. Belichick didn't want him anymore. So I appreciate greatness. I can't stand LeBron James, and I appreciate everything he's done. He's just a phenomenal talent. So I consider myself a fairly rational fan.
Who's responsible for the Patriots' success more?
Brady. I would amend that by saying later in the career it was Brady, earlier it was Belichick. But I would give the kind of the majority to Brady, I think. In particular, where all the players say it, they say it wasn't the Patriot way, it was the Brady way. So I'm reading the comments on your screen. Belichick's great, but he's also, I think he's a little dated as well now too. Some of the stuff that might have held true in the league 15 years ago, some of his kind of methods don't necessarily hold true anymore. And our drafting has been atrocious for the last three or 4 years. So
I got a question outside of all this. Based on what you guys know and what you see in MySlabs, the conversations you have on the phone with business partners or potential business partners, with clients, customers, all that stuff, what's something that excites you about the future of the hobby that perhaps the average person at home won't know about for a while or isn't really aware of that's coming? Something that maybe you just have to be in the industry as much as you guys are to know what's coming up or hear about the rumblings. Anything come to mind?
The growth.
Just give me all the secrets. All the stuff that you signed NDAs about, just let us know.
That's actually a really poignant question, Brad. That's a good one, man.
I'm working on it. Thank you.
Usually when he asks it, people just tell him to screw off. Yeah. We asked Dr. Beckett, and he was just kind of like, not telling you anything, Brad. Anyway,
we agreed you wouldn't ask this ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, just kind of being, in the position that I am within the company. I mean, I tend to be like the first line of defense or just the person that gets forwarded a lot of the, folks that want to collaborate with us and, people that are doing a lot of interesting things and different things in the hobby and just, so I literally have calls like every week, with like startups and like, technology people that are building different types of apps and just, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's like this, maybe one thing that's coming that like nobody knows about, yet that's just going to be game changing and paradigm shifting and all of that. I wouldn't say that, but, one thing that just kind of it just makes it exciting and just overall bullish to me is just, how much of all of that there is, how much investment and, how much, I don't know, just how much, just interest and, how many of these like startups and like people that are, putting, resources and thought into all of that stuff. Like, I just think like just the sheer volume of that is exciting, and obviously it's, I think if you have enough of that going on, eventually like, they'll be like the cream will rise to the top and there'll be the diamonds out there. And, those are going to be the ones that kind of lead the hobby forward, and change things. But there's a ton of it, like there's, just tons of companies that are trying to get into the space, so that, that's exciting, obviously just hopefully when they're all, competing with each other and just, the arms race, that happens and just, hopefully that, the community and the hobby gets served, as a result of that whole process. I mean, that's the hope.
Definitely the growth. And if you look at what Fanatics has done and what they're going to do, like I'm excited what they're going to do. They've spent a lot of money and it isn't going to be to keep status quo. They're going to grow the hobby by, 3-4-fold, hopefully. From a kind of a selfish point of view, I would love to see Fanatics end up with like the upper deck contracts so they can have Jordan sign. I don't know if that's, realistic or not, but having Jordan on licensed NBA cards would just be amazing. Like this whole new generation coming in that, hasn't really seen Jordan on cards in the last how many ever years because nobody buys unlicensed stuff, would be able to see on-card Jordan autos. I mean, us too, right? I mean, we haven't seen really licensed on-card Jordan autos since early 2000s. Something. No, that isn't right. Late 2000s. But from selfish point of view, I'd love to see that. That gets me excited to see what Fanatics is going to bring to the table and see how they plan to grow this. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, listen, obviously,
on that topic, I was just going to say, Dustin, what are your thoughts on the Wawa news? Just because you see what Fanatics is doing already on a small scale, putting baseball cards in Wawas and I think 7-Eleven as well.
Yeah, honestly, I was more excited about the starting lineup news. They're bringing back starting lineups, which I guess they're only going to offer them online, which is kind of a bummer because I was thinking like, man, it'd be cool to go into Walmart and see starting lineups again. So I hope that that's something that kind of takes off to where they also sell those in person because that's just a huge nostalgia thing for me. But yeah, no, I did see that the Wawas. I mean, that was something that what's his name? Luber had talked about that. Luber had talked about that they were going to have cards in gas stations and all that stuff. It's going to be like 1990 all over again, man. It's going to be wicked.
Say it ain't so. Coming from the comics hobby, like that, but it's, hopefully, obviously with all folks like you guys and all the influencers and all of the, data aggregation, apps and all of the information that's available and I think, people's fingertips, these days, you hope that it, people are a little bit smarter and it doesn't necessarily have to become like 1990 again.
Well, it seems like Luber, I mean, the way that they talk, I don't know if they're going to have print runs on the stuff that's in Wawa, but you can see what they're doing with Zero Cool. I think you'll be able to kind of tell what stuff is rare and what stuff is at every gas station in the country.
Right.
It's going to be fairly easy. And I think that they're going to be more transparent with trying to get that information out there to the public. Whereas in 1990, there was just nothing. I mean, there's no internet back then. There's no, there was no, it's not even the same planet really.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, well, just putting cards, just any card product out where someone that's not in the hobby can find it and then buy a pack for $4 and then fall in love with the idea of it and then do research because now there's way more information, a lot more resources. That to me is great because you're just putting the bait out there. The free sample, so to speak, is littered all over the place where someone that has no idea this existed can now learn about it and then actually get in. I mean, thinking about it, if there was if there was football cards in a gas station, a couple of years ago before I got in, I probably would have gotten back in earlier because I would have just paid $5, not a lot of money because it's a gas station. I would have probably been like, yeah, $5. Yeah, I'll open a pack of cards. And it would have sparked me just to look deeper into the hobby before I had to hear Gary Vee talk about it 5 times, 6 times before I finally did my own research. So I'm excited about that because if you just put that bait out there and let's see who it resonates with and then go from there, I think it'll be good. I think we're about done. I mean, an hour flew by talking about the hobby, talking about what you guys are up to. Anything that you'd like to end on regarding MySlabs, regarding the future of the platform and what you're most excited about, or what message you'd give to anyone that's not currently on MySlabs?
Well, I would say I do want to apologize in particular to like that gentleman earlier that was apparently turned down by the applications process. It isn't personal. We're just trying to keep the platform secure. A lot of people take it personal. There are ways you can get on, shortly after if you get denied out of the gate. You just have to have a little bit of patience. We aren't looking to keep good people off the platform. We're looking to get all the good people we can. It's just due to the application process. It might take a little longer than usual, and we do apologize for it. But when you get on as a seller, we promise we'll protect you like no other platform will.
Yeah. So Dustin, a couple more attempts and you'll be good to go.
I'm just going to keep trying, man. I'm just going to keep trying.
See, there's no preferential treatment. Dustin, he's on his like 8th attempt, and it's like, hey, man, you need more of a credit history and more of a history on eBay. And I'm not going to vouch for you. I'm sorry. I haven't done a transaction with you, so I don't know.
Collateral, they're like, you just don't seem quite right.
Every reference we've contacted has said no.
Every time I put Brad down as a reference, for some reason, I don't get approved.
Mom, you told him no? Why would you do that? Tim, seriously.
Nah, but we're,
go for it.
Like I said, man, we appreciate you having us on, and obviously we appreciate all the support from the community. And, we do have an exciting roadmap, for MySlabs over the next 12 to 18 months. There's a lot of interesting and things that that we're planning that we feel are going to really serve the community, add a lot of value for members, and just obviously just add a lot more options for people. So obviously we're excited about that, and we're excited about the hobby. It's I think it was scary there for a while over the summer, but I do think that the hobby has kind of gotten back to a state of somewhat of a state of like equilibrium, and I think the price action, now is a lot, in most sectors of the market, it's a lot healthier, than it was for a while. So, hopefully this is, kind of where we're at now is a good kind of, launching pad, into the future, and a good place to, good base, for the hobby to kind of build off of, so we're just happy to be part of that and where we are in all of it.
And if anybody is super new, like really green in the market, when you get the opportunity, buy rarity. Don't buy, the stuff with the huge pop counts.
The stuff I bought. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry.
No,
ignore all
subjects.
Ignore all Brad's videos from the past.
It's okay. I sold some of them on MySlabs, and it only was charged 1% fees.
Why aren't we paying these guys?
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. Ken and Matt, we really appreciate you hopping on. Just because Dustin and I like you guys, we're going to end on your promo video. So stay tuned. We'll say hi to you after this plays. Guys, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
The platform designed by collectors for collectors just got even better. MySlabs.com is proud to now feature dedicated sections for both raw cards and raw comic books. Browse over 100,000 slab collectibles, authenticated by the industry's most trusted grading companies. Then check out a massive selection of sealed wax and now raw singles and raw lots. Join a passionate, no-nonsense community of nearly 50,000 members and enjoy some of the best buyer and seller protection in the business. And as always, MySlabs offers one of the most disruptive pricing models in the hobby, with seller fees as low as only 1%. So the next time you're forced to pay 10%, 20%, or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com, the low-fee marketplace by collectors for collectors.